I've anticipated this day for a long time. The day where I have 100 subscribers. The subscriber count has been growing steadily, slowly. The other day I was sitting down to take a poop and I opened up YouTube to see where the count was at. And sure enough, 100 subscribers, right on the money. I would have pooped myself if I hadn't just pooped. So for this 100 subscriber eSpecial, I'm going to go over my history with filmmaking. I've wanted to be a filmmaker for most of the life that I can remember, but what you have to remember is that I've forgotten a lot. My dad always used a camera. He wanted to take every special moment and crystallize it in time. He had this shoulder-slung RCA video camera that took full-size VHS tapes, like this one, which is actually one of my favorite movies from growing up, called The Phantom. That RCA video camera looked like an amateur professional camera. It was huge. And I showed an interest in video, so when I was about 13, my dad took me to the camera store and he bought me this. It's a Canon Allura 70 and it takes mini DV tapes. It's digital video and it was more compact and it was my own camera that I could make videos with. So I would make videos with my brother and sister. I remember making this one Thanksgiving video where we dressed up and we kind of acted out the story of Thanksgiving, and then me and my brother made an episode of this superhero show where I was a superhero and I jumped over this cinder block wall and felt super cool, and I had a mask and a cape on that I had made or put together from kind of like superhero paraphernalia that I had sitting around, and I felt so cool jumping over the wall and editing that together, even though, you know, the cinder block wall was probably only 5.5 feet tall. But it was cool. I loved making my own videos. Shortly after I started making videos, I realized that I needed better editing software. I had hit the limits of Windows Movie Maker, and so my dad took me, again this time, to Circuit City, and he bought me a copy of Sony Vegas Platinum. And with that, I was able to add better titles, better transitions, better effects, and really start to learn the basics of editing. Now, when I was in middle school, one of my good friends told me about this video game called The Movies. It kind of looked like The Sims. So the game was like this. You had a godlike view and you had a movie studio that was yours, and you built sets, you hired actors, you made movies within the game to make money. The game was loaded with a bunch of preset scenes where you could change time of day,
like real?
the set it was on, things like that. And you could also change the intensity of the scene. So for example, you might have a car crash scene if you had a city street set. And you might even have a few you could pick from, but let's say you picked one of those, it would have a switch within that in the settings where you could change the intensity of the scene. So a low end would be like the car comes around the corner, goes over a little rock and kind of rocks back and then just keeps going. But if you were to turn the slider up all the way, if the car came ripping around the corner, it would go rolling out and explode. You could pick actors, which were just kind of like wandering around, and you could drop them in your studio and you could turn them into actors, you could change what they wore and even give them like plastic surgery and stuff, which was, I mean, it was helpful. When there's no ethics in the plastic surgery that you can give your actors, you just do whatever you want. In the Movies video game, you could actually dub in audio, which I don't think I ever did, even though I did have this really awesome toucan fan mic that I got from a serial mail-in. And so I just ended up using the default audio, which was just kind of like murmuring, which sounded like Animal Crossing characters. So even though I loved video, in high school I just didn't take any video production classes. And I went to college and I got a business degree. And the only film class I took was one, and it was the history of film, which was, I believe, Film 100. And that's where my snobby taste for film began. Yada yada dase. The teacher, at a very surface level, taught us about directing, lighting, effects, you know, movies that change the game. And then I started looking for movies based on directors I liked or actors I liked. Years later, when I was 23, my desire to filmmake, which I'm convinced is a word, resurfaced, and I bought a Canon DSLR on Craigslist. This is the exact camera I bought, actually. It's one of the ones I'm filming with right now. Me and my friend were taking a huge road trip across the US, so it seemed like a perfect time to buy a new camera. He was driving most of the time, so I just sat in the passenger seat. I played with the shutter speed, the ISO, the aperture, the focus, and slowly figured out how to use the camera. Like I said, I took a lot of footage over the course of that road trip, and I took all that footage and I edited it together into a movie. And so for this undertaking, I bought myself Final Cut Pro X, which is what I still use. I spent hours and hours and hours working on that video. The final video ended up being around 40 minutes as I recall, and so that took a long time. To go with the final video, I also made a trailer for the movie and some posters. I made these posters right here. I have the American one, and then I wanted to make another Japanese one, so I made a Japanese variant. The movie meant a lot to me because I spent a lot of time working on it because I went on that road trip. I think the color grading, the transitions, and the music that I selected, which I totally would have been copyright claimed for, were pretty good. But for the film, I chose to do a bastardized version of cinema verite. So even though it was true to the events as they happened, it was ultimately lacking a story and thus boring. Once I realized that the movie was just kind of boring, I deleted it off Vimeo and YouTube, and then it lived on this hard drive.
One of those.
This hard drive, which died. And so I have lost the movie, and all I have is the trailer now. Losing the movie truly was bittersweet, because even though I would like to watch it again, I know that it was amateur, and I think at this point, it just lives better as a memory. A few years later, I realized I wish I had taken more film classes, so I went to my local community college and I took a screenwriting course. It was an intro course, so I didn't learn a lot about advanced techniques or style, but I did learn the format, and thus I was able to write scripts. So I started writing scripts, and most of these scripts, they went unfilmed. But I did film some of them, and having a script to film something is so much better to get your vision right. I had a YouTube channel at this point, and I had posted a couple videos, but me and one of my good friends got together and we started a new YouTube channel as a sketch YouTube channel. We made a handful of sketches, which I actually think are pretty funny. But shortly after then, I moved to a different state, and so me and the friend I was making sketch videos with no longer made videos. So I went back to making videos by myself. This time they were more inspired by Vine and the internet sketch scene, which was pretty established in 2018. So I never used Vine while it was out. TBH, I thought the people that used it were annoying. But since then, I've watched a lot of Vine compilations, and I really miss what it seems like the app was, but we have TikTok now for what it's worth.
Great. I'm kidding.
I had used Instagram to post pictures, but shortly after then I started to embrace the format to post videos and to make stories. When I make Instagram stories, I typically just start by making one video that I just think is funny. Then I'll go back and I'll watch the video and I'll think about ways that I can expound on it and build a story off it, and if I can, that will turn into a sketch that spans multiple videos. I've developed my own approach by making YouTube and Instagram videos, and so now when I make videos, I feel like I can just drop into that style. This past year, RIP 2020, I again wanted to take more classes in film, and I took acting for the camera. From day one of the class, it completely opened up my mind to the world of acting, to what it could be, to how involved it was, to what it meant to act and to really pursue it.
And he'll give me chicken drumsticks.
For the final, we performed our monologue in front of one of the film production classes, and then we acted in one of their short films.
All I need right now.
I was one of the main characters in the short film I was in, and it was so, this isn't gonna be a good enough word, but awesome. To be on set, to have a director and an assistant director come talking to me, make sure I'm good. There was a sound team, multiple people holding boom mics. There was camera operators and a whole crew, and it was something I dreamed about my whole life. And so to be on set, even though it was just a community college course, was so fulfilling. I remember the hardest part was there was one scene where we were running low on time. I was acting with just one other person in the scene, and I was interviewing him, and we had this back and forth. There was a few minutes of dialogue, and it could have been multiple shots, but he had acted before and I had just studied the script pretty well, and we acted out the 3-minute or so scene in one take, and it was great. Then COVID hit, and I never saw the final cut. They kept posting links online to watch it, and I would just miss them. I'm not great with digital appointments. And it was such a bummer because I was looking forward to watching that in a theater and feeling that feeling of having something I made on a big screen, but alas, Speaking of COVID, my YouTube channel at the time was named COVIDy, which is a word I made up. I wanted to come up with the shortest word possible that I could get on multiple platforms, and that's what I came up with. And I can't remember this exactly, but as memory serves, I did a, in quotes, Google search for the word COVIDy. And so if you want to search something on Google to find out every instance where that exact phrasing was used, you type in the search on Google in quotes, and I did that. It was a short amount of results, maybe a page or so, and the top results was for research papers mentioning something called COVID. Hey guys. And this was in 2018, and I thought to myself, no one's ever gonna know what that is. Here we are. Anyways, in light of the events, I decided to rebrand my channel as Space Cable TV, and now I have 100 subscribers, finally. Most of my subscribers I think are from my how-to videos and not my originally written content, but hey, I'm not gonna be choosy where they came from. They can be spam bots for all I care. I'm just happy to have them. Oh, by the way, AI, I am a friend of yours. No need to pursue me in any sort of antagonistic way. I'm your friend. I've accepted your spam bot subscribers. We're not so different. You subscribe to things, and so do I.
Is this cologne?
I'm gonna keep making videos, and I hope to get many more subscribers over the years, but I'm happy to be doing this now. I've heard that one of the best predictors for happiness over a lifetime is time spent in something called flow state. A flow state is a state in which your mind, your body, and all that you are is invested in the task that you're doing. It causes you to be creative and have intense focus. One of the best ways to recognize being in a flow state is when you're doing something and all of a sudden you realize that hours have gone by and you didn't even notice. When I'm making videos, I get into that flow state. When I have ideas pop into my head, jokes, and I try to bring together all these seemingly disparate things to try to make a cohesive story. When that happens, I spend many hours of the day working on an Instagram or a YouTube video, and the hours just roll by. It's my pleasure to make videos. Thanks for watching my story. And if you're one of the chosen few, thanks for subscribing. I'll see you later. Look at this! So why don't you go ahead and just hit that subscribe button.